Hey everyone, Owenath here from The Right Way, and got an article about what's happening in Austria, and it has quite a few connotations for us living here in New Zealand as well. So, if you're not in New Zealand, our vaccination rates are getting pretty high. There are certain places which are over 90% double vaccinated, and the whole of the country is getting pretty close to that. It's in the 80% for double vaccinations. Um, and obviously, the narrative that the government has been telling us here in New Zealand is that once we're double vaccinated, we will be able to enjoy all the freedoms that we had before. Maybe just have to wear some masks and do a little bit of social distancing in certain areas and so on. But we've got some news that's coming out of Austria, which might have some effect on us down the line as well. Austria announces new national lockdown and also mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. So not just for people in certain jobs and things, it's for everyone. Mandatory, I mean, can you imagine that? A mandatory vaccination for everyone in your city? That seems pretty totalitarian to me. So Austria announced a new national lockdown and a plan to mandate vaccinations as coronavirus infections hit a record high Friday local time, forcing the government to walk back promises that such blanket shutdowns were a thing of the past. Imposing a mandate would give Austria one of the world's most stringent vaccine requirements. Chancellor Schellenberg said that those who didn't comply would likely be fined, but gave no other details. The move comes as vaccinations in Austria have plateaued at one of the lowest rates in Western Europe, and as hospitals in heavily hit states have warned that their intensive care units are reaching capacity. Now you might be thinking, well, maybe they should just lock down the unvaccinated people. Well, earlier this month, Schellenberg indicated a full lockdown would not be needed and instead imposed the restrictions only on those not vaccinated. Right, so he did lock down those not vaccinated, but apparently the case numbers are still rising, and so now he's locking down everybody, whether you're vaccinated or you're not vaccinated. The lockdown will start Monday and initially will last for 10 days when it will be re-evaluated, Schellenberg said. The country will also make vaccinations mandatory, though the Chancellor gave few details about what it meant or how it worked. So, what is the point of getting vaccinated if you are forcing all vaccinated people to behave exactly the same as unvaccinated people? Are you sending the message that the vaccinations don't work so that we have to lock down the whole country whether you're vaccinated or you're unvaccinated? That seems to be what's going on. Right? In New Zealand, we've been told the spin that, if you're vaccinated, you won't be locked down, you'll be able to have your freedoms and so on. So at the first sign of cases rising, do you think that this pathetic Labour government in New Zealand is not going to say, hey, we need to lock down everyone again? I can just see that happening, right? Increasing the vaccination rate, and I think we're all in agreement on this, is our only way to break out of this vicious cycle of viral waves and lockdown discussions for good. We don't want a fifth wave, we don't want a sixth. But we've been told the narrative that if you get vaccinated, it reduces your chance of getting the virus, right? So why are you talking about fifth, sixth and seventh wave if you get your vaccinations up? Austria is among several Eastern European countries where infections are rising rapidly and where there are concerns that vaccination rates, while relatively high, are insufficient to hold off a winter surge at hospitals. So they always talk about the case rate, but they never talk about how many of those are asymptomatic or very mild symptoms, and how many of those are actually enough for people to go into hospital. Right, average daily cases have doubled in the past 2 weeks in Austria. What does that mean? I mean, give us some actual figures. A doubling could be from 5 to 10 or 10,000 to 20,000, right? While average daily deaths nearly tripled, though fatalities remain well below the highs of last winter. And 13 US states are already seeing higher deaths per 100,000 people than Austria. So it sounds like there might be a bit of overreaction to this, as all of these left-wing governments always are like that. They're all for locking down people and controlling them. Not quite 66% of Australia's 8.9 million are fully vaccinated. according to government figures. It had tried various measures to boost that further. This summer, Austria introduced the Green Pass, which shows proof of vaccination, recovery from COVID-19 or negative test result, and was required to enter restaurants and attend cultural events. For a long time, the political consensus was that we don't want a vaccine mandate in this country, but we have to look at reality in the eye. For a long time, maybe too long, me and others thought that it must be possible to convince people in Austria to convince them to get vaccinated voluntarily. So let's have a look. Is there anything else which is interesting here? The latest lockdown is the fourth since the pandemic began, comes as Austria has struggled without success to stop spiraling case numbers. On Friday, the country reported 15,809 new infections, an all-time high. Finally, we get some actual figures. But again, they don't say how many of those are asymptomatic or mild symptoms, how many need to go into hospital, that sort of thing. For the past 7 days, the country has reported more than 10,000 new infection cases daily. Austria's intensive care doctors welcomed the government's decision, warning that it was only a matter of time before their wards were swamped. It's not swamped yet, right? It's only a matter of time before it is swamped. It doesn't matter about the case numbers. It's all about how many people go into hospital, how many people are actually dying because of the virus, not because of other symptoms. That is what the most important thing is. As we said, the vaccine doesn't stop infections, right? So why are you locking down everybody? You don't need to lock down the vaccinated people because they're vaccinated. That's the whole point of being vaccinated. If you're going to lock them down as well, what's the point of getting the vaccine? That's going to tell anyone who's not vaccinated, well, what's the point of getting vaccinated? Because you're going to be locked down anyway. It's just a ridiculous lockdown measure from Austria. But you can imagine it's probably going to be some sort of left-wing government that is all about controlling their population. Coronavirus is coming to every country anyway, right? You can't stop it. Even in New Zealand, where we had almost a year of absolutely no COVID cases in the community, once it got out, we found there's no way of actually stopping it. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think it's a good idea that Austria have made to lock down all the vaccinated people as well as the unvaccinated people? Love to read your comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, you're welcome to give it a thumbs down. And hopefully you'll subscribe. And hopefully I will catch you in the next video as well.